Four Midwest Guys presents The Solo Fallout.
Hello everybody, welcome to Four Midwest Guys presents Solo the Fallout. I'm here, I'm your host B. Willie, and with me as always is Mr. Brian Ankenbauer.
Hey, what's up, what's up?
What's going on, B?
Not much, man.
How you doing?
Hanging in there.
Yeah, copy that. I am clean shaven. If you don't recognize me, I have gotten rid of the goatee, so this is Babyface B. Willie. So, there you go.
Babyface B.
Yeah, there you go, Babyface B. Alright, so a lot's happened. Obviously, Solo came out. Did not make the greatest box office predictions. Did not do so well. I think to date it's just around the 300 million mark. If I short there somewhere around.
If only
there.
I had 300 million.
I know, right? Like that's a failure.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God! God forbid. But nevertheless, it has rocked the Hollywood world because it did not meet expectations, and because it did not meet expectations, a lot of fallout is happening behind the scenes. A lot of really, honestly, there's a lot of speculation, really, more than anything at this point.
Yeah, I would say there's nothing been really confirmed.
Right.
But that's what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk. We're going to speculate. We're going to our own speculation to it, and we're going to talk about it. We've dedicated a whole podcast to it. So, basically, we're going to go into, we're going to talk about Solo, and we're going to talk about Lucasfilm. We're going to talk about The Last Jedi. We're going to talk about everything that's going on in Star Wars and how this. I don't want to call the movie a failure because it's a great movie and it's really made for fans, even though not all the fans went to see it. But let's just call it did not meet expectations. So underachieving disappointment, maybe from a certain point of view. There you go. So
from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. See what I told you was a certain point of view. Oh yeah, really? That's great. All right. So. Let's talk about Solo. Memorial Day was projected to make 150 to 170 million, which I was interested when they released that to begin with. I was like, oh wow, because all we'd heard is this thing's gonna flop, it's gonna flop, it's gonna flop. Next thing you know, they're like, oh, it's gonna break a Memorial Day expectations. I don't know if this was a ploy to get fans to come out to it just because of the numbers to try to stir up. I never did quite understand.
I didn't understand it either. Like the number came out of nowhere. Yeah. Like we had watched several of their podcasts like we usually do, and they were talking the whole time how it was gonna, it was gonna make this amount of money. We didn't know how good it was gonna be, and then like 4 days prior to opening,
they released this.
All of a sudden it's like it's gonna hit 150 to 170. If it really breaks expectations, there's a chance it could get up near 200. It's like, hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
How did it go from so low to all this? Get it so low?
Yeah.
How did it go from so low all the way up to like these numbers that we didn't see for a while? I don't understand where the projections even come from.
Yeah, I would think they would. I would hope they would base that off of pre-ticket sales. At least that's what I was thinking when this was released. That they
There's
were
no way. There's no way they do it.
But
off
obviously
pre-ticket
not,
sales.
because what happened was we ended up domestically with 103 million over the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, and that means it was in 4,381 theaters here in the States. When you add in the global, it was 148 million total. So 148 million, but that was globally. Domestically, those projections were for domestically, the 150 and the 170. So obviously it fell 50 million short at the best numbers the way you can look at that comparison.
Right. To hit the projections, it would need another 47 million.
Right. So, again, I don't know why. I'm just going to assume that they wanted to try to push fans and everybody thinking everybody was going to see it. It was some sort of a last second ploy.
To me, when you say the projections are that high, it almost makes me not want to go to the theater to see it because I'm like, it's gonna be packed. Why do I want to go see it if it's packed? Yeah. I'll wait till the following weekend to go see it when it's not packed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if it got it had the effect that it wanted to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think.
Don't get me wrong. We went and saw it, but
well, sure we did, and I think a lot of fans. And for those who saw it, it was a movie. Really, honestly, it was made for fans. I mean, the casual moviegoer would go and have fun and see it, and a lot of people did. Everybody who's seen it likes the movie. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's not a 8, a 9, or a 10, but it's definitely a 7 in my book. You know,
my favorite is the response that you get with, "Well, no one asked for this movie." Okay, did we ask for the first Star Wars when it came out?
Did we ask for Rogue One?
Did we ask for Rogue One?
No.
Did we ask for, did we ask for Indiana Jones before Indiana Jones came out?
No.
No. Not that I think that Solo is an Indiana Jones movie or of that caliber, but it was still a fun movie.
It was a fun movie like Indiana Jones.
And we had, who cares if we didn't ask for it?
Exactly. Precisely. So, but nevertheless, it did not meet expectations. So therefore, Fallout will begin, or at least speculation has begun, because Lucasfilm isn't really giving a whole lot of guidance. So with that in mind, let's talk about, was this a Last Jedi hangover? There was a boycott put in place, the Solo boycott, because of The Last Jedi by a group of disgruntled fans.
Stupid.
It was basically fans that were so let down by The Last Jedi that they would not give Disney any more of their money, and that they wanted Kathleen Kennedy fired, and in order to get their way, that they were creating this whole boycott Solo movement.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I don't think the boycott really worked. I think there is definitely some...
Oh, I think it did.
Last Jedi... Oh, really? Well,
we saw it. It only got 103 million on the projection. And we saw when we went to theaters, it wasn't packed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was so much of the Solo boycott as it was that this movie was so poorly marketed.
Yeah. That's what I was going to go with.
Yeah.
Say that I think it was more marketing.
I mean, it was just like... We kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and and it also had to do with the fact that halfway through, they switched directors.
Yeah,
and it's like, what do you expect to happen? And you push up the timeline. If you're gonna get a new director, go ahead and push it back to December, because guess what? Fans aren't gonna care. They'd much rather have a finished product that is you're 100% behind.
Yep.
Than something that they feel, they just threw it together because they're trying to throw it at us and have us spend our money.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is the May opening date. I don't understand why it had to be May. I understand they don't want to go in December because they have some other movies. There's a Mary Poppins sequel. There's also,
Don't care.
I think there's an Avatar also. Either way.
Oh, I don't think Avatar's coming out yet.
Anyway, for whatever their reasoning, they didn't want to push it to December. I say, that's fine. Why not push it to August? Guardians of the Galaxy premiered in August. The first one.
True.
Or move it to October. Maybe make it a Thanksgiving movie. I don't understand why we had to stick the May date when you put it in there with Deadpool. And Deadpool fans will go see Solo. It's not, obviously kids won't, but that's definitely part of it. And then the big one, Infinity War, came out. They couldn't even put any of the merchandise out on the shelves because of the Infinity. Basically, Disney killed Disney here when you get right down to it, because they're both, you have a Marvel property and you have a Star Wars property this close together. I don't the whole marketing scheme, the late release of the trailer, no build up.
Deadpool's not a Marvel property.
It's a Fox property.
It's Fox property.
But
you're right. Infinity War is what did it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem: is you had Infinity War, Deadpool, you had Jumanji, right?
It was a little earlier, but yeah.
But you had all these movies that came out back to back to back to back to back, and people only have so much excess money to spend at a certain point in time. So it's, once you go see 2 or 3 movies, you're done for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And plus, you're getting into the summer months, and it's like, it's nice outside. I'm going to stay outside.
Right.
Especially in today's age where it's not all about going inside and
going to the theater. I sit at home.
Yeah. And then locally we had the issue with our one of our local theaters is redoing all their seats. So, half the theater
is only open.
So and I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of local factors in some of those ticket sales. But not that Cincinnati area controls that big of a market on it, but
you'd like to think so. But
it's there's so many factors that go into stuff, but putting those kind of movies back to back to back to back,
Yeah, again, I don't think there was really the boycott worked. I think there was some disgruntled. Yes, there are some disgruntled Last Jedi fans, but I don't think they were part of the boycott movement. And that's where I'm getting at. I don't think
that could be. I mean, that could be.
Because I heard a lot of people just say, "I didn't," after Last Jedi, I'm done. And there is a big group of the Star Wars fans that have kind of walked away. So I think that's more if there is anything to do with the Last Jedi, I think that's part of it. So, but definitely not the boycott. So let's talk about what changes we might see at Lucasfilm. Obviously, talking about Kathleen Kennedy getting fired. Let's face it, it's not because of the boycott movement, but let's face it, you had the Rogue One had to be pretty much reshot, right? Even though they got to keep their director, Solo, obviously, Lord Miller replaced by Ron Howard practically after filming was done. We had issues. I think even if I remember correctly,
episode 9.
9
was supposed to be Colin.
Favreau.
No,
or not Favreau.
Colin Trevorrow.
Trevor. Thank you. God.
And he got replaced by J.J. Abrams.
You're right.
And then it's just, it's just one of the. Didn't episode 8 was always Rian Johnson, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She loves Rian Johnson, apparently.
Which is awful too, but it's just one of those her decision making at the top of these films has caused these films to do poorly.
And I was going to say all those 3 big things all land on her shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but she's dropped the ball. She's fumbled the ball 3 times. If you're going to use football analogy, and if you fumble that many times, you get pulled out of the game.
Yeah. And like we were talking off camera. Yeah. It's fine if she wants to stay in control of the business. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be like you said, a Kevin Feige type character who is in charge of the creative storyboard that is that has a general idea of Star Wars in general, the myths and stuff, and not to go on a tangent, but we've talked, and it's not that when you're telling the new Star Wars story, tell a new Star Wars story. Don't tear down the old one,
new myth,
and piss off all the fans who have been with you the whole time. Yep. Tell something new. Yep. If you want to say, here's these new characters, that's fine. Tell us these new characters, but don't try to bring in old characters and then just have them be fodder for you to just dismantle.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what has just split everything.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And not to get back on the Last Jedi bashing, but look at where they were. They were in the first Jedi Temple ever. You could have added all kinds of mythology. We got a bunch of books. That's all we got.
Yeah, we got 7 books.
7 books that they didn't talk about beyond that, and a tree that was a temple, a carved out tree. That's it. I mean, and there was the cool, obviously at the top of the mountain scene, and the picture of what people are calling the Prime Jedi, the first Jedi, but that wasn't even mentioned in the movie. I mean, that's kind of like an afterthought.
They didn't even reference it.
No more myth. So much potential for more myth. So much potential to see. But
instead we get Rose and Finn riding a stupid llama.
Well, I was okay with it. It was that part didn't really bother me. It was a side adventure turned up on its head. It was
awful.
Okay.
Creatures were cool.
Yeah.
But there was really no point for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just.
Yeah. Well, again, he deconstructed everything. He took everything that was Star Wars and tore it down, and then tried to build it back up, and that works. And like I said, I like the movie as a movie by itself, but the more I think about The Last Jedi, the more, and I can't really give you a definitive final answer on Last Jedi until I see Episode 9, because obviously they're all connected. But for right now, the more I think about it, Last Jedi this doesn't feel like Star Wars. For all these reasons that we said. Give us new myth. Don't deconstruct. Build on the myth. Make it bigger. Expand. Don't contract.
You know who's good at expanding is Filoni.
Filoni's awesome.
I mean, we have that later in our notes to talk about.
We do.
But he, when we talk about somebody who could actually have some kind of creative control that has an idea, it would probably be him.
He's learned at the master's feet. Whether you liked him, he may not be the greatest director in the world. He may also be awful at writing dialogue, but George Lucas is an amazing storyteller, and this is his world that he built from beginning to end. Even if you hate the prequels, you still have to admit that there's a lot that he added on and built on. We've heard rumors about how he would have done 7, 8, and 9, which I'm interested in. Not so many other. It would have involved midichlorians, but it would have been cool, I think, because he's a master storyteller. So yeah, and he learned at the feet. He learned while they made Clone Wars together. Then he went out on his own and did Rebels, which is a fantastic Star Wars storytelling series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some of the best Star Wars storytelling out there, even better than the movies in some cases. So yeah, that we'll get more back into him here in a minute. But yeah, he's great, and I think it would be perfect for a future leader of the creative team.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we'll just keep going with the narrative. I think that he would. I wouldn't give it to him all at once. I think he should do some of the live action, maybe with Jon Favreau's series. Give him some episodes, kind of build him into, and then if he does well there, maybe give him a standalone movie.
I don't even think that. I don't think, because I think it's two totally different things. So like, I think he can be in charge of the leader, like the board, like a Feige.
Mm-hmm.
But Feige didn't direct any of the movies.
No.
So that's what I think he needs to be. He needs to be the head at the table that says, you do that. Bring your story to me. I'll tell you if it fits what we want. You bring your story to me. You tell me if it fits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he needs to do live action because we've seen the kind of storytelling that he can do.
Yeah.
With his team on Rebels.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, bringing that across the board would be fine because they would bring their story to him. Mm-hmm. And then he'd give approval, which is what Feige does.
Right.
So that's where I think he needs to be. Like, I don't think he needs to direct any episodes or anything else.
Yeah.
Because you got your Kevin Smiths and everybody else who
are dying to direct.
They're dying to direct these things, and you could do that, and that would boost your ratings for an episode or whatever.
Right.
Kevin Smith does Supergirl or Flash or whatever.
Right.
Because he's big, but he's a big Star Wars fan as well. He would love to do that. You'd have all these people who could direct, who have great talent. You just need one head figure saying, that story fits, this story doesn't. Mm-hmm. Rian Johnson, you're an ass.
Well, it's funny because Star Wars already has something in place. Even they have the Star Wars storyboard. They just don't have a lot of power. I think their job is just to make sure that the comics, everything in the comics, fits in with the books, and the books fit in with the movies, and the movies fit in with the TV series. And I think that's what their role is right now. But I think they need to take that team, expand their power, and whoever they make the head of that team should be the head of creative control. Now, whether that's Filoni or not, I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way to organize. I think that's just my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think, Brian? Do you think that's kind of a that's your team? That's your.
I mean, that can be your team. Mm-hmm. I guess you just take the stories that they create and give them to directors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would...
And make sure that they're following the narrative, too. So you don't have the... Whatever happened with Solo with Lord Miller, where they were going way off in God knows where with the movie. So, all right. So, sorry, we kind of jumped around there, so we're a little off.
That's all right. So, going back to some of the fallout here, we got no Solo 2.
Yeah, I think...
Do you think that's going to happen? Or do you think we will get a Solo 2? Because whatchamacallit said he signed on for 3.
I would love to have a Solo 2 and 3. I had no problem with the movie. I think it deserves a sequel. I think it might deserve its own trilogy if they've got a good enough story, and I think they do. Not just with Solo. I think you've got Maul, and spoiler alert, by the way. You've got Maul, and you've got Kira. Kira is a very interesting character in Star Wars. We're always hearing about we need strong female characters. She may be one of the strongest I've ever seen in Star Wars, and the most dynamic, too, especially after what happens in Solo, how she's basically sacrificing herself in order to save Han, from Maul and bringing him deeper into the muck.
Right.
And what's her game? Is she made a deal with the devil to get out of her situation, and now she's playing the game to get out? How's that work? That's a very interesting character to me. Very interesting dynamic to me. I would love to see that split out. In fact, I think they were even thinking of doing more like a Star Wars Underground trilogy. Now, for those, if that sounds familiar to you, that's because that was Lucasfilm's original idea for a live-action TV show. It just never got off the ground. They had like 50 scripts, over 100 hours of material. I think they've already borrowed from it somewhat, because I remember hearing, well, you're going to learn how Han got the Falcon from Lando. Lando's going to be in it. There's going to be bounty hunters in it. There's going to be all kinds of underground material. They had a Star Wars game called Star Wars 1313, which was all the levels of Coruscant, because Coruscant is a multi-level planet from beginning to end, and 1313 was the exact middle of the core of the planet. series built into it. There was all kinds of stuff, writers, scripts, all kinds of material out there to pull from, and I think they had something in mind, or at least they had the material to work with to go forward. Does that tie into this Boba Fett movie that we've heard about? Does it tie in? Could they tie in even the Kenobi movie to it? Because Kenobi's on Tatooine, Jabba the Hutt's on Tatooine, you've got bounty hunters on Tatooine. Just saying. To me, maybe it was going to be Solo, Boba Fett, Kenobi.
Well, it could have been. That could have been your trilogy. But
that would have been your Star Wars Underworld trilogy.
One can only hope, because now we're hearing, like, news. Was that today or yesterday? The news came out.
Collider broke a story, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, basically reporting that all standalone movies are currently on hold. Lucasfilm has since came out. I think they came out on ABC News. Now, remember, ABC is owned by Disney. Disney owns Lucasfilm as well. So they're obviously they're pulling the company line here, but they're saying that nothing's on hold, but they're kind of rethinking about how they go about doing things in the future as far as marketing and blah, 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 etc. Bunch of BS, really. But usually where there's smoke, there's fire, so there is probably some truth to the Collider element here.
Right, but they said that the Kenobi movie might not even get released in theaters, that it might go straight to the streaming service when the movie's made, so it won't go straight to video like some of those like Sharknadoes or whatever, but and now they're talking it's going to go straight to the streaming service. But they did say that might be how they're going to try to pull people in to sign up for the streaming service, to say, the Kenobi's there. Mm-hmm. Do they do that and then later release that movie in the theaters for a small release? But it's funny because Kenobi movie is actually one that people are actually wanting.
Yeah, this is a fan movement.
When they said they didn't want the Solo movie, it was because they didn't want to see anybody try to play Harrison Ford's character. With the Kenobi movie, they actually have Ewan McGregor, who played Obi-Wan in the prequels. So they actually have him coming back to reprise the role. So it's not like it's going to be somebody new. And the fans are like, oh, we're behind that because we've already seen what he can do.
Yeah. Think about all the potential, though, of a Star Wars Underground series. Even outside of Kenobi, you could actually see Vader fight Maul. Tell me what Star Wars fan you get the dream matches, doesn't want to see Darth Vader take on Darth Maul. It's there. There's room for it. In fact, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rebels, but there's a scene in Rebels where Vader's coming and Maul turns to Ezra and goes, I can't face Vader alone. I can't face Vader. How does he know that? How does he know Vader exists? Bingo. I think it would have been part of this trilogy. I hope to God that they don't overreact to the Solo thing. I think the Solo thing, I'm hoping they will catch fire.
Yeah, that they don't need knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, knee-jerk reaction. Yes, make the adjustment. Yes, say, never, ever, ever market a movie this way again. Never stick to this date ever again just because, Disney says so. I really think that's what happened. I could be wrong. Maybe Lucasfilm said we need to hit May. But to me, it has the feel of a Bob Iger kind of, we're going to hit this because the stockholders.
I think there's that aspect of it. But I think there's also... there was also the Kathleen Kennedy side of it that said, I've already made 2 mistakes.
I can't make a third.
I'm not going to make a third one. We're hitting the date that I said we're going to hit. And we're going to get my person in because I'm confident enough that I can, And it kind of ultimately backfired on her.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
Instead of taking, humble pie and saying, I made a mistake. We're redoing some of this stuff, but it'll still be out, like you said, maybe August.
Right.
Push it back a couple months.
Why not?
And what the funny is like even if you push it back to August
or Thanksgiving,
we'll go with either one.
Yeah,
you still put out your trailers in order they came out, right? So they still come out when they came out, and you have that much longer.
They build fan momentum.
Exactly, but because what happened was we were waiting and waiting. Yeah. Oh, it's coming now. Oh, it's going to come at the beginning of this. It never showed up.
And why? Because Last Jedi was still in the theaters. They didn't want to take away from Last Jedi.
And then all of a sudden it was, it's coming out in the Super Bowl. No. Oh no, it's not in the Super Bowl. That's only the preview. The real one's going to release on this. It's like, this is awful.
Maybe it's just me, but you have The Last Jedi, which had a lot of Star Wars fans in it, whether they like the movie or not. why not just give us even that teaser Super Bowl trailer that they put together?
Exactly.
Put that in front of The
Last Jedi.
I don't understand.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Like, we all knew Solo was coming.
Who cares? They'll just be like, oh, that's next. That's coming. All right, great. You know, now at least even if they didn't like Last Jedi, they could go, well, okay, the Solo looked cool. I got that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Man, marketing disaster. Let's talk about Episode 9. I think this puts a ton of pressure on J.J. Abrams now, because that's the next Star Wars movie out. We got a year and a half, basically. It's December of 2019. So we have a year and a half to wait. So you're going to have a lot to go on, a big gap in between. JJ's his story has to hit a home run. I think this feels like going into The Force Awakens times 10 for me. You know how everybody's like, oh, they've got to hit a home run with The Force Awakens.
I'm worried.
They got to. And then once again, here we are again.
I'm worried, though.
Do you think they're going to overreact?
J.J. Abrams has never been one to finish a story.
I think I liked your idea a few months ago where you said, what if they blow it out wide open, though? What if it's not an ending? What if it's a...
Yeah, like if he does something like that, where he takes it and he just, instead of trying to
wrap it up
and end something,
mm-hmm.
and instead he just expands it.
Right, which leaves it open for 10, 11, and 12.
Right, then that's something that probably won't have as bad of effect, but like he killed, like people watch Lost every week.
Mm-hmm.
He killed that series by the ending.
Yeah.
It's not even a series. You don't even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
He didn't write it, but he yeah.
But it was his show.
Yeah.
And he let it happen. So it's one of those, like, you watch the whole series and that's all people could talk about. What happened on Lost? Did you see this? Did you see the smoke monster on Lost? Did you know, it's all anybody could talk about.
Yeah.
And that ending happened and people were just like, F that. That was stupid. What was the point of watching the whole show? You know, and it's just one of those things like,
right.
That was a horrible way to end the show. It would have been better if they would have done the Sopranos type ending.
Just go fade to black.
Just fade to black.
Yeah, let you make up your own mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that with Star Wars, obviously.
Nope.
So yeah, it's a good point though, Brian. He is not a proven closer. He's a proven starter. He's a proven remaker.
So what so what happens if he just takes what we just did and just kind of opens it up so that you have your you have your
Luke or some Luke.
Yeah, and you have your rays going one direction. You have it branch out.
Right. And I'm fairly confident that it's not going to be like 8 and it's not going to be like right after 7. It's going to be a time jump of probably several years between the two. The other thing, he's got, like I said, he has to try to, I don't want to say repair the Last Jedi, but he has to address some of the problems of The Last Jedi, in my opinion. It's not a knee-jerk reaction, but there are things that he should probably do. Not to appease the fans, not a lot of fan service, but a little bit of fan service, maybe a little bit more than he was thinking of doing. I think that's got to do that. The story's got to be good. If it is wrapping up a trilogy and it's not expanding, he's got to find a way to do that and make that right. I think Episode 9, I thought going to Episode 7 was the hardest job ever. I think Episode 9 is maybe the hardest thing he'll ever have to do, in my opinion, and he's going to have to figure it out. And he already had his story treatment before they released 8, supposedly, or right after 8, he was giving it to Bob Iger. So, without much feedback from 8. So, I don't know.
Because he already had done 8.
Yeah.
He had 8 and 9 already done.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Ryan just didn't follow
he said,
it.
Nope.
So now, is he going to repair it? Should he repair it, or should he? I think he should go forward and do the best that he can with it. But I don't know. It's a very tall order, though, to be sure.
Well, you know what I think? One of the stories that I would like to see happen to play out in Episode 9, would be that we get Luke, right?
Yeah.
As a Force Ghost,
right?
And we get Hayden Christensen
as a Force Ghost.
Sure,
that would be awesome.
You know what I mean? And I just think that'd be so, trying to tie stuff together and infuse it into this universe instead of just kind of just crapping on it.
Well, there is a rumor going around that Episode 9 will infuse the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy all in one. So I don't know if it will encompass it or close it necessarily. It may close out the Skywalker saga, or it may not. I don't know. We'll see. I would personally prefer the Skywalkers go on, but I understand that you can't stay with them forever. But you can branch out from them. So,
I mean, what if they what if they do this movie and they pull from Legends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now that Snoke's not in there, they pull in like a Darth Raven or
go crazy or some ancient. I want to see the Sith come back by the end of 9. I miss the Sith, honestly.
Right.
Do.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like so, and they pull that.
Yeah.
They pull that back in.
Or Darth Plagueis.
Yeah. They pull something in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they won't be able to pull Darth Plagueis because he talked about it in the prequels.
Yeah.
So they won't be able to bring him in per se.
Well, he just thinks he's dead. He doesn't necessarily. I mean, he can work your way around that.
Maybe. But regardless, as long as they bring somebody in,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe then you maybe have, even though I know you won't want it, but you have Kylo switch to the good side.
Well, there's also rumors that Snoke, because he's not a Sith, trained more than one apprentice. Like Kylo was only one of many, kind of thing. Which would leave open the door for a Kylo Ren redemption. But in my opinion, he killed Han Solo. Fuck him.
Right, I know.
There's no redemption for him.
Not only did he kill Solo, no, he didn't. I guess technically he killed the other one. I was gonna say he killed Admiral Akbar, but
he did. Well, his
technically
troops did.
Yeah, I was like technically he did, but
yeah, fuck him. Yeah, he killed Solo. Fuck him. All right, so I think one of the problems, and I think we're in agreement on this one, is Lucasfilm needs to communicate to the fans the plan. There needs to be an overall plan. If there isn't one, come up with one and give us just a general plan. Marvel does a great job of this. They came out, and I remember there was a big screen. They grabbed a bunch of fans off the street, and they're like, we're going to do this movie, and then we're going to do Civil War, and then we're going to do...
They had a timeline.
They had a timeline.
They had a timeline. They didn't have stories.
Nope.
You didn't know how they were going to connect.
No
but they said, we're going to do this, and then Black Panther, and then Infinity War, and then Ant-Man and Wasp, and they had it all planned out.
Yep.
What movies they were going to do. You know what? Don't even tell me the timeline. Don't need a timeline. Just tell me, Solo movie, Boba Fett movie, Kenobi movie, Episode 9, whatever, however many you want to put in there, and you just tell us what the plan is.
Mm-hmm.
So we, as fans, can prepare for it. We can speculate and everything else we want to do for it.
Yep.
And because that's half the fun of going to the movies is our speculation,
Yep.
and then seeing if we were able to guess it right.
Right, or not. And and if you have a plan forward, the rumor mill doesn't run the asylum. You know what I mean? The inmates don't run the asylum, because that's what's going on right now. You've got this report. You've got Collider. You've got, all these random reports coming in, different things. A lot of it is speculation or speculation-driven, rumor-driven. Take control of the situation. Say, nope, we're doing this, and this. You know what's coming, Yeah,
like their version of telling us what's going on is Jon Favreau is working on live action.
Okay.
Game of Thrones guys are working on their series.
Several Star Wars movies.
Ryan Johnson's going to work on a trilogy.
And that's all we know.
And that's like you're not giving us like time frames. Like we're working. Don't even
know Favreau now, but that's about it.
Don't even tell us that we have Game of Thrones people. Tell us we have a series that's probably we're trying to work in the Knights of Ren.
Mm-hmm.
We have a series that we're working with. The first Jedi,
right.
We have a series that we're trying to tie
Knights
this
of the
in.
Old Republic.
Yes,
we tie into the first
Jedi.
Yeah.
Like we're these are the series that we're working on,
Mm-hmm.
and then fans can get behind that, and not because fans are fans of the show, not of the particular director. Because perfect example is the new Star Trek that they were talking about, and they said, "Oh, Quentin Tarantino is going to be a part of this thing." No one cares.
Right.
No one cares about Quentin Tarantino. I mean, some people do, but he's not as great as everybody says he is.
Yeah.
And it didn't have as big of a like, oh, that's great.
Now I'm gonna go see Star Trek now because
But you know what did have the bigger outcome? when they just talked about
changing over Star Trek Discovery. Not to make this a Star Trek podcast, but
right. But
yeah.
when they just made that announcement that what the heck was the guy? Who's the guy in charge of Star Trek Discovery? He did The Walking Dead.
Yeah, he did Walking Dead. I can't remember his name now, but he did Walking Dead. He did.
Holy crap!
He did some of the Transformers stuff.
Kirkman.
Anyway.
Well, anyway, but he said he is going to make several Star Trek TV shows, and guess who he's getting come back to one of them? Jean-Luc Picard. Patrick Stewart coming back to play Jean-Luc Picard. How many people are not going to tune in to watch that after the next generation? Because you know why? They come for the show. They don't come for the director.
Right. They come for the story.
Exactly.
They're going to come back to see what happened to Jean-Luc. What happened to my favorite, Star Trek Next Generation series. Not to go that way too long, but yeah, it's a great analogy though because it ties in. I don't know. There are questions that need to be asked, like with the saga films, and again, because they haven't addressed it, we're speculating. Will we see episode 10, 11, and 12? Will there be another trilogy in the will it be a Skywalker saga? Will that continue? Will the episodics continue? What will it be? Obviously we can't answer it without seeing 9, but
I'd like to see when they do the promotion, like the promotional stuff for episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
Just
the end of maybe an after credits scene.
That
for God's sake.
Well, maybe what I'm saying is like the promotional stuff, like on TV, like you say, the last of the Skywalker saga, or the Skywalker saga continues. Right, because that's going to tell us if we're going to see a 10, 11, and 12.
Right, and get fans excited right off the bat. Great idea. Right, put it at the end of the credits, right before you roll the credits. Marvel does that all the time. Thanos will return. All that. Spoiler alert, but hey, stuff like that. Let's talk about Rian Johnson's trilogy. Obviously, after The Last Jedi. Well, we have to talk about it because it's fallout from Solo, because Last Jedi may have rolled into Solo. Solo will now affect Rian Johnson. Should it still happen at this point? Will it happen? Well, let's ask a question. Will it happen?
Yes.
Should it still happen?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't think that it needs to be, this is a guaranteed trilogy.
I will agree with that.
I think you go one film at a time.
See how he does.
And see how he does.
Yeah.
I think that he already kind of threw a big goose egg out there with Last Jedi, even though it got so much money and everything else. Mm-hmm. But he divided
the fan base.
He divided the fan base.
Yeah.
And you just saw the repercussions of that when Solo came out.
Yeah.
So you bring out the new Star Wars. Some people are like, well, the new generation needs a voice too. That's fine.
Yeah.
Create your own characters without killing mine.
Right, exactly.
And that's why a lot of people are pissed. But, so I think that if his first movie needs to be we're in the Star Wars universe,
mm-hmm.
because we have spaceships and we have some familiar alien characters.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody we know.
Right.
And it needs to be in a different part.
Yeah, well, or if you do use Star Wars characters, they don't get killed. They're just used to send them off on their mission or wherever they're going, just as a reference point, if nothing else.
But I mean, how cool would it be if his Star Wars trilogy actually was one of the spider webs that was at the end of Rebels? You know what I mean by spider webs? So like Rebels ended here, mm-hmm. but then you had one group going this way, one group going this way, one group going this way, one group going this way.
Take some characters out of Rebels.
So you take a character out of Rebels, mm-hmm. and that's where his trilogy goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, and it builds off of that.
So you're not really affecting
mm-hmm.
anything else, but it's his own way of telling stuff. Yeah. And he could tell whatever he wants.
Because they're his characters.
Yes.
Yes.
I can definitely see that happening. That could be a trilogy all to its own.
Yeah.
But the moment you try to bring in, let's bring in Yoda. Nope. Kill him. What? Hey, let's bring in
dead, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's bring in Luke. Nope. Kill him.
Yeah.
What?
No, we have to. It's not just kill him. We need to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's basically what it was. It almost felt like Rian Johnson is a Star Trek fan.
Whoa!
And he came. And
now.
You know what I mean? And he came in like, what's the best way I can screw over Star Wars fans?
Star Wars.
Luke. Boom, gone.
Yeah, kick to the balls to Star Wars fans. The old school Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
If it does happen, under what circumstances should it happen? I think if it does happen, I'm like with you. I think he'll do better with his own characters, but I think it needs to have oversight. I think he needs to have whatever he's doing. He needs to present his plan. They need to sign off on the plan, and then they need to make sure he sticks to that plan. If that makes any sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is talking about chain of command.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have people who say, well, he's the director and he needs to have free reign over everything.
He can
It's
have
like
some creative freedom, but he needs to stick to the
right. But he's
to the
also
plan.
he's part of a Star Wars universe.
That's one big story.
And you know, it's just like at work, yes, I do have my team, but we have one goal as a company.
Mm-hmm.
So even if whatever I do inside my team, I still have to follow the same company goals.
Exactly.
And what he did was there's company goals lined like this, and he pushed The Last Jedi just out enough that there's a big, nice hump in that sideline that used to be straight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what he did. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh no, but we're still in the Star Wars universe, so it's still kind of there. But when you look at it from a distance, you can see that bulge, and you're like, whoa.
Well, it's like I said, the more I think about Last Jedi, the more it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie. And again, I reserve the right to change my mind because of Episode 9, because Episode 9 will have to directly deal with Episode 8.
I mean, I wish I could hear a podcast from when Empire came out, and we hadn't seen Return of the Jedi yet. You know what I mean?
I think people are upset that they got their ass kicked, but I don't think it was like it was now. Of course, the fan base was still new.
Right, exactly.
And there was no internet. But
right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But I because at the time we knew there was a third movie coming, right?
Right.
But we didn't know
what
it was.
Well, or
did they know? Did they know there was a third one coming when Empire came out?
Yeah, probably. I don't remember. I was so young back then. I was 4 when Empire Strikes Back came out, so.
I'm just curious.
I have to find an older Star Wars fan than us.
I'm curious if they because I bet they didn't. I bet they didn't know it was coming. When it came out, they just said, the next in the Star Wars galaxy, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen the trailers. I have the Blu-rays that have the original trailers on them.
Yeah.
But I bet they didn't know because they weren't pressured like they are now with online and podcasts and everything to put the knowledge.
Magazines, that was about it.
Huh.
So
that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Different culture, different lifestyle, different time. Back in the good old days.
You should ask your dad, and you say, Dad,
back before the dark times.
When you were using your abacus to pay out your bills.
Before the internet trolls.
When you were using your abacus to count out your bills.
Oh. All right, let's talk about the streaming service. Let's talk about Jon Favreau real quick. We do know, the only thing we really know is it's 3 years after Return of the Jedi. We don't know much more about that. Other than it's going to have a lot of the CGI that The Lion King had and that the Jungle Book used.
Which should be good.
Apparently it's an idea John's had since he was young. I don't know, but apparently Rian Johnson had the same idea for Last Jedi, so should Lucasfilm take maybe a second look at everything, including Jon Favreau's, if it's a fanboy idea come to life kind of thing, if they just to prevent.
Well, here's what
I don't think it'll happen with Jon Favreau because I think it's completely different.
Right. So here, what I think needs to happen here is that Disney or Star Wars, whoever, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever you want to say, comes out ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And says going forward, movies line up with movies.
Okay.
TV shows, they come out and they just say, TV show, this TV series
takes place here,
is all on its own, doesn't tie in.
Oh, okay. Beforehand, so you know what's going on.
Right. Okay. So it does not tie into.
It's canon, but
it doesn't tie into the universe or whatever.
The episodic.
So you're not trying to figure out later on down the line, well, if this person is so powerful in this series, how come we never saw him in episode 7?
Yeah. From that perspective, I think they'll take great care because I think that's what the story group does now. I just don't think they dictate overall narrative of the series. They just make sure that it fits within the Star Wars timeline. And that doesn't interfere with any other projects.
Kind of like how Marvel has. Marvel has shifted gears. In the very beginning, they tried to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to fit in with the movies.
Yeah. And it wasn't working out.
And it wasn't working. It just didn't gel right. So they eventually just broke it away. They never said, hey, it doesn't do that anymore. But I think this past season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there was one reference to a movie.
To something in the greater Marvel universe.
But that was it.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the series. I think it depends on who you're dealing with and if you're dealing with familiar characters or not. In John's case, it sounds like they're all new characters, so you may get a few hints. You may see a familiar bounty hunter of some kind, maybe a Bosk or something. And
that's what I was gonna say. Like you're gonna, you might get those because since he's had it since he was little.
Mm-hmm.
Leads me to believe that there was several characters that he liked in the movie.
Absolutely.
And that he wants to take those characters to bring a new thing. So maybe Jon Favreau's series is going to be basically a special missions team that goes out on missions.
Oh yeah, like a special forces.
It's not like an A-team
for the Empire or for
like an
for
A-team.
the Rebels. Yeah, I can say that.
You know what I mean?
It could be.
You know, I mean, and that would be kind of neat to have have the A-team for Star Wars
for the Rebels or the Empire. That
and
would
it's
be
like
cool.
The A-team.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And it's
Commandos. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I could see something along that line. All right, so let's switch gears. Let's talk about the Game of Thrones series real quick. There's a rumor out there that this is Star Wars for adults, that it's darker, it's grittier. I guess the question then is, because this would be a major transition from the traditional Star Wars ratings of PG and PG-13, it would almost be like an R-rated Star Wars. Should that happen? Should we get the Game of Thrones in space, dark, adult, Star Wars-esque movies? Or series, I guess.
Yeah, like it depends on if it's a series or if it's a series of movies, or if it's a series or if it's movies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what it is, and it depends on what it means by Star Wars for adults, darker, grittier. Because if that means that we see, like, the lightsabers take off arms, and we see, we see the gun blasts, the holes, and we see that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
What I don't need to see is Star Wars with sex in it.
Right.
Because I don't feel the need for that to be in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to see I don't want to see take existing characters that we've seen portrayed in a PG and PG-13 setting and take them and transfer them into an R setting. I don't want to see
you're like, I don't need to see Han and Leia make Ben.
Right, exactly. Or I don't need to see I'm trying to think of a good analogy other than that one. That's a good one. But yeah,
you don't need to see the Wookiees with the cookies?
Yeah, I don't need to see Poe make his move on Rey, like they kind of hinted at the end of it. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see Rey be totally sexy with, and suddenly bust out the Jedi girls. So that's just me. To me, Star Wars has always been for kids, and it always should remain for kids, no matter what medium, no matter what project they do. Just because you want to be able to keep that there. I think that's what's magic about Star Wars.
Well, the other thing is like, and I understand that you got all this Star Wars stuff that's being made, and we need Star Wars for adults, but at the same time, the Star Wars is something that you can do with your kids. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why they would take away that aspect of it.
Yeah, and you don't want to confuse the kids either. They might be like, "Mommy, what am I watching?"
Yeah, I don't. Or you want me to watch I can see the kids going, "You want me to watch Star Wars, but this is Star Wars. Why can't I watch it?"
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go, "You can't watch this Star Wars," and then all of a sudden it's like, "Well, if I can't watch that Star Wars, I don't want to watch any Star Wars," and you're slowly killing.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
I get it that there's a fanboy, adult there's adult Star Wars fans and fanboys
there's
that want that.
There's adult fanboys who sit in their mama's basements
with their towels next to them, and but
use the Force.
Not that kind of force. So I don't know, but and then lastly, Fallout. Will we see any?
To go to the opposite extreme.
Not that kind of Fallout. So let's talk about the animated series that we know that are in production. We've got Star Wars Resistance. This takes place right before The Force Awakens. It's going to have Poe. It's going to have Phasma in it. The big change for this one is it's the first Star Wars anime style cartoon, which will be interesting to see style wise.
Yeah.
Not too crazy about it right now, but hey, I'll give it a chance. I wasn't crazy when I first saw the thing for Rebels, and they, as far as I'm concerned, they knocked it out of the park over time. My question is, can it recapture the Rebels, Clone Wars kind of feel, anime style? Will it have any of that? And will they make any changes because of Solo to it, do you think?
I don't think that they'll make any changes to the animated series based on Solo, because the animated series was already in production. We already know it coming out this fall.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to change anything, because all the other aspect of it is that it does have a kid feel to it. So I don't think the kids per se are the problem with the movie stuff. So I don't think they're going to have that big of a, because it's almost like DC, where DC has the, I hate to keep jumping into other realms.
Well,
but
you got to use a comparison.
Yeah, but you have the DC movies and you have the DC animated series, like all the cartoons.
And the cartoons are way better.
Right, because they just have better story. They're able to do more stuff with their storytelling at a cheaper rate. Right. So I think that's kind of how this is going to be, where you have the Clone Wars and Rebels and this new Resistance.
Yeah. And
then you have the movies.
Right.
And I don't think you can compare the two. Like, you can connect the two, but you can't compare them. I think is in my opinion.
Okay. I think it's going to be just fine. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to do anything. Obviously, like you point out, Brian, that season 1 is already done, and they're probably already working on season 2, if not 3, because that's how far in advance they work on these things. So whatever changes are made will be made later, and I don't think they will. I think, like you said, it is definitely a kids' audience. I think you said it as best as you can. And I think that goes for the rumored second animated series, which we're hoping is a Rebels continuation series.
Oh, I hope so. And not so much of Rebels, but just several of the characters from Rebels.
Right. The spoiler alert: the Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine.
And you know what? Thinking about that, I wouldn't even mind if that second animated series was not even an animated series at all, and that it is the Game of Thrones guys who are going to do the Ahsoka, Ezra.
Oh, they then pick up Sabine and pick up that storyline and they run with it?
Yeah, and pick up that storyline and run with it.
I was thinking more Knights of the Old Republic, but yeah, that would work.
And because they won't be affected by everything else, because Ezra and Thrawn got thrown out into the
probably out to
the dark universe.
Nowhere.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So they're way out there. So that half that show is going to be about probably
new places.
You're going to have
cultures.
Ezra and Thrawn. Maybe they have,
if they find them at all. It might just be Sabine and Ahsoka.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And they're going looking for them.
Yeah.
Or maybe your TV series is 3/4 of the show is those guys looking for them, and then the last quarter of the show is Ezra and Thrawn trying to come to grips with where they are, or try to, do they remember who they are? It's something like,
right,
or
are they amnesia kind of?
Do they have amnesia? Are they like friends trying to go through stuff because they don't remember things, and then slowly they start to remember parts
or figure each other out?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like that would be great. It's characters we already know, so they would have stuff to pull from.
Oh yeah, plenty of history.
Stuff to pull from, and seeing them in live action would be
awesome for the Rebels fans, especially. So they're that pretty much concludes like our Star Wars Solo Fallout podcast. I guess just real quick, we'll do let's throw it over to social media real quick.
Okay, where they can find us at?
Yeah, where can you find Four Midwest Guys? Well, the best place to go is www.fourmidwestguys.com. That's your one-stop shop. You've got links to our Podbean, to our What is the
iTunes?
iTunes. Thank you.
No problem,
I can
man.
remember that one. iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Man, I'm
Instagram.
I'm batting 1,000 today.
I know, man. It's been a while.
But you can follow, like, and subscribe there. You can also everything is categorized for you. Also, the podcasts are in chronological order on the website itself. But if you like just one show, you can click there. Like we did Star Wars Rebels. We did the last 2 seasons of that. Actually, the last 3 seasons of that, and it's all archived there as well for you. But it's your one-stop shop is the www.4midwestguys.com. If you're on Twitter, you can follow us at 4midwestguys.com. Brian, where can they follow you?
They can follow me at Inkzone.
At Inkzone, and you can find me at bwillie1977. We can also find Brian and I also on Stardust at those names as well. And Brian, what else? I think we have an Instagram account.
We have Instagram, which is at the_real_ank. That's got several pictures from behind the show. I'm probably going to break that away and do a official 4 Midwest Guys one.
Cool. Oh wait, you got your own personal.
Yeah, just because I'm starting to post some other stuff on Instagram there.
Okay, that is fair. So let me post back to main real quick. So, Brian, I guess what is your overall? If you could tell Lucasfilm anything about the Solo Fallout, what would you tell them? I guess.
Tread lightly.
Tread lightly.
Yeah, because you can't. The only way you can save yourself is if you have a plan, and the only way you're going to have fan support is if you let the fans know the plan. Mm-hmm. So if you're not going to do that, then you better tread lightly and not go too far in advance.
Exactly. Don't make it a knee-jerk reaction. Don't overreact. Yes, react, but don't overreact. Look at the way. Give us the game plan, like Brian said. Give us something. Don't let us run your company. Don't let us run the narrative. Take control of the narrative, and the only way you can do that is to have a plan, and then just give us a general idea of what that plan is and what's coming and what's coming next, instead of leaving us all in the dark.
Oh yeah, the marketing.
Oh yeah, and marketing.
Give us plenty of
time
to soak it all in and watch the trailer. I mean, like with Force Awakens, dude, we had a whole year.
Yeah.
And we watched the first trailer. We broke that down. We watched the second trailer, broke that down, added the new footage.
Yep.
You know, it was so much fun, the build-up and everything else. And then with Solo, you got a month and a half, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, there was no time to speculate. There was none. I mean, we speculated as best we could without trailers, but it was meaningless. So, yeah, there's just take your time, get a plan, take control, and, market the hell out of the movie and do it right. Do it traditionally, because that seems to work best. So... All right, so that concludes our podcast. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
And this is B. Willie saying, may the Force be with you always.